Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We have lots to discuss, obviously, with us ramping up. I think it's 22 days to January 13th, and hopefully there won't be any major delays in the start of the NHL season. But obviously, with the world the way it is right now, we always have to foresee the possibility of delays. Eck is delayed. He'll be here in a few moments. But while we're waiting for him, we'll start the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
I mean, everything gets delayed in this era, so we understand. Let's talk a little football from last night, where the Cincinnati Bengals did the Pittsburgh Steelers, as they say in this neck of the woods, and it's really because of Ben Roethlisberger. Like, they've lost their last few games because Ben Roethlisberger is old and fat, and he tried to defend his weight. Mike and I saw this like months and months ago, where he just looked massive.
Yes.
And he blamed it on his beard. He said, "Oh yeah, I lost 5 pounds when I shaved my beard. Ha ha ha." But end of the day, it's not like he could go around shaking off defenders anymore because he could barely move. And like yesterday, here's his numbers: like 20 for 38, 170 yards, a touchdown, and an interception against a really lousy team. And Bengals did everything right, the same way the Jets did when they got their win. And the Steelers really didn't have all that many answers. Juju Smith-Schuster also got his comeuppance because every game, pregame, he now dances on the opponent's, if he's at an away game, he dances on their logo. And he took a pop yesterday in that game. Not only did he fumble the ball, but he probably thought better of now maybe doing his little pregame dance.
Yeah.
Because the Bengals took him out, and he still played. But all those things are trending down now for the Steelers, and it's possible the Browns win their division, take over the home field in the playoffs, and the Steelers are going to be a 1 or a 2-win team in the playoffs and done.
Well, unlike most of the Monday night games this season, I actually watched the majority of that game last night. It was just a commentary on what was not on TV.
Right.
And Roethlisberger had a good second half, but he threw for 19 yards in the first half. And everything the Bengals did was right. Everything the Bengals did was, they didn't make many mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there was just something off with Roethlisberger at the beginning of the game, and then the second half, they made it a contest, but and the Bengals became more like the Bengals. But I mean, nobody was, and I'm not defending Roethlisberger because I don't like him, but nobody was criticizing him for being a fat pig when they were 11-0.
Right, because maybe he was going to be like Babe Ruth and get away with it.
Yeah.
But it's hard in the NFL to get away with it, especially when you start getting down late in the season when guys wear down. And I see it in young guys that are too heavy. I see it on the Jets. This is a 37, 38-year-old quarterback.
I think it more has to do with the fact that they, their number one running back, Connor, had COVID and has been in and out of the lineup the last few weeks with I think it's a leg injury. That they've lost, I think, basically their entire linebacker core. So their once vaunted defense is now slightly above average. The season has caught up to them.
I mean, did COVID make him throw that interception? Did COVID make him fumble the ball twice? No.
Roethlisberger didn't have COVID. It was Connor.
No. I mean, you're saying the running back, but I'm saying, did that make him throw an interception? No. Did that make him fumble the ball twice? No. He looks like an old quarterback.
Oh yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer. Like, we get that, chat room, like we do.
Right. Yeah.
But right now, we're just talking about the here and now, going into the stretch run with an older quarterback that looks old. Tom Brady looks 5 years younger than Ben Roethlisberger, as an example.
Yeah, and but the thing is, they both have like really good supporting casts around them. I find it funny that the Steelers have like the receiver core that has the most drops in the NFL, which is hilarious. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, this is just a weird football season. I think it's going to end up, with Kansas City winning it again because they just seem like they're.
I think we all think that. Yeah, I mean, look,
machine.
Roethlisberger's got 10 interceptions, 10 in 14 games.
Yeah, no, I mean he hasn't been perfect, and I think it was just like somebody said on a podcast I was listening to that the Jets were not an 0-13 team, that they were better than that.
Right.
You know, I think that the Steelers were not as good as being an 11-0 team.
Agreed.
But Bruce, the funny thing is, just to touch on what we talked about yesterday in Hack, the fact that a Jets fan who was on the Bill Simmons podcast, who basically, was of the opinion of course the Jets screwed this up because it's the Jets. I know. They have not had an awe-inspiring central figure in terms of a player since Joe Namath, and they had the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence and have that type of player for the next decade, and of course they effed it up because they're the Jets. Now, I'm not going to be, only a Jet fan can say stuff like that. I say that about the Bills all the time, and I'm still hesitant to be positive about the Bills being good because for 25 years they've sucked. Yeah. So, but honestly, it's like, and this is the argument that Eck and I get in all the time. When you have a chance to tank, if you're a fan and you're rooting for your team to tank, you are not rooting against your team. You are rooting for your team because your team sucks. And
I get it, but
you get something good out of your team sucking.
But you can't convince players of that, and that's why
no.
Only the GM could decide who's playing on the team. But then even the coach a lot of times will override the GM, and that be damned. And they'll talk about it, after the game. Last stat here that I have for you, Mike, while you're defending Roethlisberger. Last year he had, and I'm sure you feel dirty doing it, 23 sacks, 129 yards lost. This year only 12 sacks, but 109 yards lost, and that's because he can't get away anymore.
Yes, Funky, this is my Austin Matthews tank speech. This is a golden oldie, and it's right because look now, 4 years into it, what the Leafs got because they sucked for a year. I rest my case. Start the show.
Yeah, they've got.
I don't even know how we got onto this and how it turned from football into the Leafs. I don't even know how that even happened, man.
I can transition with the best of them, Russ.
Well, with tanking, it's a real short trip to Toronto. So we know that, right? So that didn't take long. Not at all.
Crazy.
I'm sorry. I am. I had that wonderful moment where you have a puppy and you just you're getting ready to do something and you step in what they've done in the house.
Oh yeah.
Had that moment just a few seconds ago, so that was fun.
So Eck, is this like a West Virginia backdrop you've got here?
Yeah, I'm back in the puppet studio today.
Where's the still?
Yeah, I know. No, it's over there. It's right over there. Yep, I'm back in the puppet studio for sure today. So
okay,
the banjo's in the background.
You'll see this backdrop if you check in with the latest puppet video that's coming out soon.
I mean, it's really good. I like it.
No, it's cool. This is where one of the.
I was thinking about spitting in the bucket, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it's a nice. It's a wonderul room. I'm using my iPad today. I'm using my iPad to do this today, so it's interesting because my main computer that I use to do this is actually editing. My son's actually using to edit his video. So it's my first time using an iPad in this situation. So I don't know quite where to look. Are you over there?
No, you're
looking to the right of where the camera is.
Yeah,
there you go. So I should look right there.
But I want to point out one more thing in the background. I'm pretty sure that bucket is for urine, to be honest.
This one over here?
Yeah. I'm not that side, the other side. The one that's hanging on the wall.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right next to the bidet.
No, I think it's for urine.
That's for soup. It's over top of the roaring fire there.
All right.
Yeah, unless you're boiling your urine.
That's what they deep fried their turkeys in.
Depending on what era it is,
it's possible. It's possible.
It did cure things, as my grandfather told me.
True.
It's pure.
Let's get to the show.
Okay.
All right. It's the 22nd. Should we have Karen? We should have Karen just go after Mike. So
that's fine.
You can introduce yourself after that. Okay. Cool. Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020.
I'm Michael Lagello, and thanks for the memories.
I'm Kevin Ice. I report on the ads for HockeyBuzz.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the coming and going in the hockey world. And today, big news, the big news that's just rip-roaring through everything right now is the apparent imminent signing of Sami Vatanen to the Edmonton Oilers. It hasn't happened yet, at least that I know of. I've been offline for about 20 minutes as I was showering the dog remains off my feet. But I think this is, with Klefbom being done, for the year, opens up some space, and you need help on the power play. Now as we know, he's a right-handed defenseman who plays the left side.
Right.
We can play both sides, but
he really has played his whole career on the left side as a right-handed defenseman.
Right.
That is his specialty. So that's why he doesn't work in Toronto. But I think that I honestly think that I could see this working out better than Klefbom in some ways. People are saying, "Oh, he doesn't come close to Klefbom. He's not."
Klefbom just came off a career year.
Yeah,
Klefbom's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But I think that if this works out right, so Sami Vatanen goes in there and signs I hear he might sign a multi-year deal actually, because there's money. Edmonton has money next year.
Right,
to burn. So therefore, you can get Vatanen to come in this year, use the Klefbom money this year, and then keep Vatanen in after this year.
Well, you have to factor in the fact that Edmonton believes they're probably going to lose a salary in the expansion draft, so that might be a factor.
Right,
and,
that's a factor too. I think that at the end of the day, I like what Vatanen brings as far as all-around play, and definitely the power play for the Oilers, was like crazy last year in terms of it was really good. No, it was the penalty kill, right? It was the penalty kill that was crazy. Crazy good on the road and terrible at home.
Yeah. Well, let's say this. Vatanen on the power play is not going to be a factor for Edmonton in terms of them signing him or not signing him because they have Tyson Barrie, and Tyson Barrie will be the power play quarterback. Right. But the factor here is
if going to need two defensemen on the wing, and it was going to be
and your number one power play. Your number one power play plays 80% of the time, so it's I think you can get away with putting Darnell Nurse on the second power play for 40 seconds.
Vatanen last year had 9 assists on the power play. It's not exactly inspired.
Yeah, but look where he played.
I know.
A very different scenario if you're suddenly a quarterback with all those wide receivers that you got in Edmonton.
But I think the factor in terms of the multi-year contract, like you're talking about, is the fact that Adam Larson's in the last year of his contract, and Barrie was a 1-year contract. They have young defensemen coming who will be on their entry-level contracts, like Broberg and Evan Bouchard, who might play this year. So if they sign Vatanen to a 2 or 3 year deal, then it makes sense because they, like you said, they don't have a lot of money committed on defense going forward. But that being said, it would make sense with Klefbom being out for the year that they would be in on Vatanen. I actually think that a guy like Travis Hamonic is a better fit for Edmonton because what's one thing that the Edmonton defense, other than Darnell Nurse, can't do? They can't play defense.
Right.
And that's the problem.
I think Vatanen's better defensively than you guys do.
He's okay. I'm not saying
he's okay. I don't think he's as good as Hamonic defensively, but he's a better skater. So, you might go with puck possession on that.
Break it up for you guys. I'm getting weird breakups.
No, it's fine. But here's the thing, Ek. While this does replace Klefbom, they still don't have enough depth on forward. At the forward position.
Give me a second, guys. I'm going to come back in.
Okay. I'll just say it. They don't have enough depth with their forwards. You're still talking about you've got to get complementary guys to help out some of their really talented scorers that aren't McDavid and Draisaitl.
Well, Corinne, let's talk about the Oilers because
working again. Russ was breaking up for me, but not you. That's weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You're back.
You sound fine, and
Russ sounded like he was talking through an oscillating fan. So, but it's fine as long as it's okay to everybody else.
But Corinne, let me ask Corinne on the Oilers. I was talking about the and we'll talk about this later. The odds for who's going to win each particular division, and Edmonton is the second favorite in the North behind the Leafs. And the Leafs are a little under 2-1. The Oilers are a little under 3-1. And I find that if those odds came from Vegas, it's clear to me that Vegas doesn't know a good goddamn about hockey, because the Edmonton Oilers, other than the Ottawa Senators in the North, they have the worst goaltending with Koskinen and Mike Smith, and they might have the worst defensive core. But after, with the loss of Clefbaum, with Chris Russell and Adam Larson, I think their only really good, well-rounded defenseman is Darnell Nurse. Now that Clefbaum is out for the year, so I mean, I don't get it. They're being made a second favorite because of two guys, Draisaitl and McDavid.
Yeah, she's
Corinne.
Yeah, I didn't know you wanted my take on that. Sorry, I keep missing the sound. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, they do make a big deal out of McDavid and Draisaitl, and they do that every year. But if the Oilers have proven one thing over the years, is that you can't just build around offensive talent. You need something else. I mean, they've been where number one draft picks go to almost die for years now. I mean, we've had Deverley, we've had Taylor Hall, we've had loads of them. And they just can't get the recipe to win. And if you look at their offseason move, they brought Turris, Barry, and the goaltender Forsberg as the third option. I mean, how does that help you?
Yeah, and Jesse Puljujarvi's back, and maybe he'll do something. Maybe he won't. I still think their bottom six isn't very good. I mean, yeah, Cassian plays a role, but they've got a great top six, and then bottom six is like and then the defense, is like average, and then the goaltending is below average.
The defense got a lot worse with Clefbaum being injured, and you can't replace a Clefbaum with a Barry. Barry is more an offensive force, and he can't really do anything defensively. But,
Right. Mark Peterson is our resident Oilers defender in the chat, and I like Ethan Bear. I think he's a good young defenseman.
Bear is good.
Yeah, Caleb Jones. I mean, I like the bloodlines. It's Seth Jones' younger brother.
But there's a big drop off. Like it's not even close to Seth Jones.
Maybe he's a good bottom pairing guy. I'll give him that. I mean, let's just say I would rather have Caleb Jones than Chris Russell. Chris Russell is
that's fair.
Yeah, is a hideous defender. He's slow and he's blocked shots for years, and he's not. I don't think he's I think he's barely an NHL defenseman now. And Funky mentions in the chat, Broberg and Bouchard, who I mentioned, they're coming and they're really good, but they're not ready yet.
I think Bouchard may be ready. Broberg might be ready.
Yeah, but you lost your number one defenseman in Clefbaum, number one. And if Eck is right, or if the rumors out there are right, you're replacing him with Sami Vatanen, who I think is a really good number 4 defenseman in this league, a second pairing guy who can log 16, 17 minutes. That's not a top pairing defenseman. And when you lose Clefbaum for the year, you're going to take a hit, and their defense was already bad.
Yeah, I look at them. They'll get through the regular season. They'll make the playoffs, because almost everybody's going to make the playoffs. But again, their depth isn't great, and they're not built for a long run here. And that still has to worry Oilers fans. Yes, making the playoffs is good. Don't get me wrong. And everybody's got a chance when they're in it. But you're going to see when they start to match up against some other teams that they're going to be outclassed. And that's a problem.
Well, do they even get a chance to match up against other teams? I mean, do you see them making the playoffs and coming out of the Canadian division?
Russ
that's a fair point too. I mean, because it is the Canadian division. You're right.
Well, Russ and I are of different opinions, and people think I'm putting on airs when I say this. I truly believe the Edmonton Oilers will not make the playoffs in this division.
Yeah, I can't say that yet.
It's the top 4, and it's the top 4 in this division. I think I'm not saying the Leafs are going to win the division, but I think they're going to be one of the top 4. I think Calgary, with the addition of Markstrom, and retaining the core of Goudreau and Monahan and Tkachuk. And I think they'll probably add another defenseman before the season starts. I think they'll be one of the top 4. I think Montreal, Corinne, with the upgrade on their blue line, with the adding of a quality number 2 in Jake Allen, and with if the forward additions work, and the only one I'm really scared about and I'll ask you about this, is Josh Anderson. I mean, I love Josh Anderson. I just don't know whether he can stay healthy, and that's the big concern with him.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping as well. But I do think he'll be the perfect addition to complete the line with Jonathan Drouin and Nick Suzuki.
Yes.
That guy's a big body that can go and retrieve the puck against the boards, which Jonathan Drouin never does, let's face it. And Anderson, he can create his own goals as well, and he's not afraid to go and battle. So, yeah, that's a great addition for the Canadiens. And having Toffoli as well just means that you can put him on the third line, and you've got a top 9 now on which everyone can score. If you put him on the left and you leave Armia on the right with Kotkaniemi, that brings Arturi Lehkonen down to your fourth line. And Lehkonen, I mean, he's a finish with no finish. We've all seen it over the years. It's so annoying. Right. So if he's on your fourth line, he's not much of a annoyance anymore. Yeah. So yeah, I am very optimistic for the Avs this season. I don't think I've ever been this excited after another season of the
I kind of think it's between Calgary and Montreal for that last spot. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
Well, okay, so I think Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, and then it's Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Edmonton battling for the last spot. So that's
I think Vancouver's. I mean, unless Travis Green does poorly, like I think he could, I think Vancouver will be in there, but. He's got to, pull his weight, and if he does, they'll be in there. They've got enough guys.
Yeah.
See, now I've got trouble discarding Winnipeg personally because they do have Hellebuck. He's heckin'.
They do.
But they also have a lot of issues, and they also have Patrik Laine who doesn't want to be there. I mean, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of stuff going around the league right now about Patrik Laine. I mean, that's a really, this isn't like quite like the, what's it mean? This is not Trouba. This is not Trouba exactly, but it's close. It's getting close, and the issues are very real.
They have issues, but the thing is, I don't think that they're going to affect Laine's production because it behooves him to have a big year.
It does, but I'm not convinced Laine is going to be there. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really am not convinced that Laine is part of that team moving forward.
Well, I think it will be. They brought back Stastny, who plays really well with him, and I think bringing Stastny back will make him want to stick around.
You're right, and the initial thought was, and logically we all say, okay, that's somebody Laine wants to play with, and he'll bring up Laine's points. But the other thought, but immediately it wasn't long after that they did that they were still moving. They were still trying to move him. They're not.
But I don't think that they'll move him within the year this year. In the offseason, sure. I think, with going into his RFA year, I mean, that's the thing. He's going to put up big numbers. He's probably going to try to, score over 30, 35 goals in a 56-game season with Stastny as his center, with Wheeler and Scheifele on the top line. And then set himself up for the big payday, which is something that Winnipeg and Cheveldayoff aren't going to do. So I think he'll get traded, but he won't get traded in season. It'll be after the year.
I think Laine could be causing problems in that locker room. That's what I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but also if you try to trade someone this season during the season, how on earth does that work?
Right.
I mean, if you're sending a guy to an American team, what is he?
No, it's a hard situation. I think that if he gets traded, it happens before the season. I'll throw it out there.
Yeah, I don't think they could trade him that quickly. We're talking about a 2-week period, Eric. They could have traded him all off season, and now they have literally less than 2 weeks.
And they've been talking to people the entire time, and they weren't going to do anything until they knew exactly what the economics were for this year. So I mean, the fact is that they are. I do believe there is no trade freeze right now. Like we normally have the seasonal trade freeze, right? That going on. There's no trade freeze this year.
Well, Corinne, right now they're saying that the quarantine period would be a week, but as we get closer to the deadline, and we'll talk about the key dates of the season, we may be able to cross the border in March. So if we can cross the border in March, then there's not going to be any delays in trading. So, I mean, right now there are delays, obviously, because they had to go through and make a Canadian division, and the border is still closed. But 2 months down the line,
I mean, there's two kinds of teams that Laine can't get traded to this year. The two kinds of teams Laine can't. I mean, there's two kinds of teams he can get traded to. He can get traded to a team that thinks they're very, very close and realizes that they have some cap space opening up next year and can figure out a way to do it this year, or he can get traded to a team that's nowhere near close, like perhaps like Detroit, New Jersey, team like that that has all the cap space in the world, and that Laine can go and just be the guy there. Detroit, I've heard, has huge interest in Patrik Laine, and that I don't know how that's going to work out exactly. Obviously, there's lots there to have. There's so much that has to get worked out, but Yzerman's good at this kind of stuff. And if Yzerman wants him, do they have the assets to make it happen? Detroit?
I don't think Yzerman wants to add any money to his team right now. I don't.
Yeah.
Laine's young. Laine is adding he's adding a young.
It's adding a lot of money to a bad team.
Right.
A lot of money to a bad team, but he's a star. And he's they still have to sell tickets in Detroit. But they have to sell tickets in Detroit. They have to.
I get that, but okay. Yeah. Detroit has to add a player like Laine. Detroit has to be in a position that they're ready to win.
Right.
All that adding Laine now does is screw up your plan to rebuild your team, because you want top 10 draft picks. You want to develop your youngsters at a good pace. You don't want to do what Toronto did 10 years ago and add a star winger in Phil Kessel, who is not a core player. As good as Patrik Laine is, he's not a core player. He's the finishing. He's the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yep.
If Montreal added Laine with the current team that they have right now, he'd be perfect because they need scoring. But to Detroit or New Jersey, it would be idiotic.
I disagree completely. I mean, I think that. No, I think that, you don't get, Patrik Laine, okay, it depends what you think. If you think Patrik Laine is the bad Patrik Laine from a couple years ago, or it was pretty good last year, Patrik Laine.
No, he's a good player, but in 2 years, Lucas Raymond's going to outscore Patrik Laine.
Right, and you're going to probably have to end up.
Why would they do that?
You're probably going to have to.
I'll take that bet, Russ. I like Lucas Raymond a lot, and I'd rather have Lucas Raymond on my team, but to say he's going to out goal score Patrik Laine.
I didn't say goal score, outscore. He'll have more points.
He might have more points, but to add a pure goal scorer,
you're probably going to have to pay Patrik Laine, whoever it is. You're probably going to have to pay him about the same amount that Colorado is paying Mikko Rantanen, which is around $9 million. And it makes no sense for Detroit to pay Patrik Laine $9 million when they're one of the worst teams in the league.
But this is no different than if you drafted Patrik Laine and you had him. Okay, this is like if you draft him, you're going to have to pay him. It's a bad team that they could tank and they could wait 4 years to draft Patrik Laine, or they could get Patrik Laine now.
No, but there's a difference. When Patrik Laine was drafted, he didn't have the ego he has now and the problems fitting into a team that he has now. Now we know that. Right. Now it makes it a lot more difficult.
And if you drafted Patrik Laine, you get him at $925,000 for 3 years plus bonuses. In this instance, if you trade for him, first of all, you're trading young prospects to get him. Then you're having to pay him $9 million. Forget it.
But and then the ego kicks in, and then when Lucas Raymond arrives and outscores him or whatever, then you get the bad attitude Laine back because he's not the guy anymore.
Right. He sucks all the oxygen out of the locker room is what he does. Yeah.
I think that I think that's overselling Laine's attitude a little bit. Like I've heard he's got a bad attitude in not wanting to stay in Winnipeg, but does he have a bad attitude in general?
How do we know?
How do you know? You have to have scouts for that kind of thing, and you have to. And basically, what the book on Laine before he went to Winnipeg was never attitude issues, was it, Russ? He was always like, he's a good guy. I've talked.
He was a good guy, and
I don't get the impression he would be a locker room cancer everywhere he went.
Well, I think he's changed a bit since his big contract. That's what I've noticed.
I think the problem is in the hockey world, if you start saying I should be playing with these players, I'm the best on this team, and you should make me play with the best players, you just lose your room right there, and you kind of get a bad rep.
I don't disagree with you there. I don't disagree with that at all, Green. But I think that I do have an issue with the fact that he has made some mistakes, he's made some stupid things. He's been frustrated a couple times in Winnipeg. He's still young and saying stupid things.
Right. But after spending 5 years in Winnipeg, basically, he's a really great scorer, but is he thought of in the same breath as Scheifele or Wheeler or Bufflin before he retired? No, he's looked upon as a like I said, a cherry on top of the sundae. He's going to expect to go to his next team and be the man. And the problem is his game is not conducive to being the man. He's a finisher. He's not a cornerstone player.
He's the man until he gets into the room with like somebody like Dylan Larkin who puts him in his place. Okay, like there's certain guys that can help. There's guys that can fix that. I don't know that Scheifele has the same kind of leadership.
Oh no, Scheifele does. I don't think the problem is there's no question Laine is headstrong. He has always been headstrong.
Yes.
But it's not a problem if he's headstrong if he's scoring 40, 50 goals.
Snipers are headstrong by their nature, right? I mean, let's admit it. Like snipers, if you're a sniper,
not all of them.
But most guys, when you have a sniper on your team, anybody who's ever played on a hockey team knows that your like top scoring guys are going to be that way. It's just like that. And part of scoring that many goals comes from that attitude in the first place. Like that's not that part of that has it's do you bring that in the locker room? Are you really a problem in the locker room with your teammates? Are you talking down to your teammates, or are you just think that you're the stuff?
He did complain about his line mates. He did do that in the past.
Yeah, but also you're also dealing with a coach there, Russ. That I think it's more about getting out of Winnipeg. I think with Laine is more about the coach than getting out of Winnipeg.
Well, the coach is going to be there beyond Laine. I can tell you that.
Right.
I don't know about that. I'd love to get Peter Teste's version of this at some point because I think
he's too busy stitching up his finger from his little ice fishing expedition.
But I'm just saying that I think that I don't know. I think you guys are underselling Laine's importance to around the league and the value around the league, which is pretty high.
Well, no, I am saying that Laine has value, but okay, Laine would be a great addition.
Not Phil Kessel, Mike. He's not Phil Kessel.
I think he's not Phil Kessel.
They're not the same type of player.
No, but Laine is the second pick overall. He was better at this point than Kessel was when Toronto got Kessel.
Wait. Kessel was at 5th pick overall, and he scored 30 goals every year.
Yeah, Laine scored what? How many goals has Laine scored? He scored.
I mean, I know he scored over 4. I mean, I think they're comparable in terms of their roles on their particular teams. Remember, in Boston, he was a complimentary guy. When they had Lucic and Bergeron and Marchand and Sagan, and then he was traded, or Sagan after the fact because he was traded for the pick that Sagan was drafted with. But when he went to Toronto, Brian Burke brought him in to be that cornerstone star player, and how his tenure worked out over 7 years in Toronto proved that he was not that, and Laine is the same.
Yeah, the problem is you have to pay him 6-7 this year, and then he is going to ask for more than that, even if he only scores 30 goals.
Exactly.
He's going to ask for more than that. Right. And most teams aren't going to want to pay him more than that in a bad economy right now.
Yeah, well, that's why I kind of look to Detroit because New Jersey is a different scenario, it's a different situation because New Jersey doesn't have quite the fan backing that Detroit has. Detroit has solid fan backing. Yeah, Detroit will sell tickets.
I'm sure they make more money on their TV deal than the Devils do.
Yeah, and Laine will make money for the Red Wings. There's no two ways about that.
But we know how Yzerman builds teams, and he doesn't build teams around. He builds teams around guys like Stamkos, around guys like Hedman. He doesn't build teams.
Historically, Detroit or in Holland, who's built, in Detroit has built teams through the draft for sure. And you're right, and Yzerman in Toronto and Tampa did the same kind of things. And Yzerman is a Holland disciple. Yzerman and Holland are very similar to each other.
Okay, but he also saw Holland's mistakes that he left behind in Detroit. And he also saw that he's got at least 4 guys that he'll have to pay in the future who are top talent guys. Why in the world is he going to give a long-term contract to Laine?
Yeah, so in Tampa, he got his centerpiece center in Stamkos first overall. He got his number 1 defenseman, his linchpin number 1 defenseman, second overall with Victor Hedman. And where did he get his sniper? In the 3rd round, Nikita Kucherov.
Right.
He didn't draft him in the top 5.
Yeah,
he didn't trade assets for him. That's what
he drafted his goalie too.
And he drafted his goalie in the 1st round. So that's what
he went out and spent a ton of money on Stamkos. And he kept Stamkos there, but still they still went out and spent a ton of money on him because he realized he was a star.
Not as much as everybody else would have, but yes.
For
$8.5 million instead of 11 or 12, which Toronto or somebody else would have paid him.
At that point, I don't think they could have gone to 11 even with the cap. But I think that, at that point, that number was around 9, no matter where he went. I mean, it was slightly more in Toronto, perhaps, but, it wasn't like 10 or 11 or 12. But because no one was signing for that at that point, the cap. But it's, to me, I think that there's more to. You have a very creative guy in Cheveldaev, who is very good at making creative moves. He has done it in the past. We have a guy in Cheveldaev who's proven you can never force him to make a move. So Laine's not going to force his hand either. Like, he's not going to move Laine. He's not going to make a bad trade for Laine, put it that way. He's not going to move Laine out just for the hell of it. Just like he never moved Jacob Trouba out for the hell of it. But
he also may not be able to move him out just because nobody wants his salary either.
Right.
I think that people see him as a perennial 50-goal scorer, and that's something that you can always trade.
Okay, so like if you're the Flyers, why don't you just trade?
They tried, and they probably would have done it. If I do believe if Niskanen doesn't retire, that the Flyers probably would have gotten it done.
Okay,
the Flyers tried to get it done. I mean, the Flyers then their focus had to shift to defense because the Flyers are more in that middle pack. And that middle pack is the one pack that I don't think does make sense for Laine sometimes right now.
Has their focus shifted to defense? They haven't upgraded it at all.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you that they've tried, but that's what they've been trying to do.
And he's a perennial 50-goal scorer who's never scored 50 goals. That's the thing. He's a
50-goal talent. He is.
Right, and I agree with that. He scored 44 goals. That was his top.
Yeah,
he had a terrible year 2 years ago where he scored a bunch of goals in 1 month, and then the rest of the year he was defensively a liability, and he played better last year. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm saying he is what Kessel was to Pittsburgh, that last piece that got them over the top to win 2 Stanley Cups in a row. That could be Laine for a team like Colorado, or somebody who has a core group already assembled. But to make him the star, Steve Yzerman is not that stupid. He will not do it.
Yeah, I agree. Laine makes me think of Max Pacioretty in Montreal. Pacioretty was a good scorer, but he couldn't be your cornerstone. He had to be let go and sent to Vegas, and that worked out quite well for him.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, I agree with your point, but I think that the difference is where you put Laine, where you project Laine, basically. Like, if you're projecting Laine to be a Pacioretty or a Kessel or somebody like that, which are very,
so far that's what he is.
He is. Yeah. He is. I mean, 45 goals his rookie year,
but that's years ago.
It is. But last year he was on what pace? He was on like a 42 goal pace.
No, he had 28 and 68 games, so he was on the 35 goal pace.
35 goal pace, right?
That's Phil Kessel numbers.
Yeah, but not. But we've already. But we know Laine has he's got more offensive.
He just has a better looking shot. But if it doesn't go in, what's the difference?
Right.
Well, but what I'm saying, okay, and I'm not saying where I project him, but I'm saying there are people in the league that project him to be Phil Kessel or Pacioretty, and there's people in the league that project him to be like the poor man's Ovechkin. Okay, there are people that go both, and I've talked to people who go both directions on that.
Okay,
if they think he's going to be if he's going to be a 50 goal scorer every year, then he's Ovechkin, right?
Now, wait, let me get
Ovechkin right now. If you're Detroit and you can go out and get what you think is Ovechkin, you do it.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. Let me ask this question. Okay, so say he's a poor man's say he's a Finnish Ovechkin. How and Ovechkin scored 50 goals almost every year. How long did it take Ovechkin to win a Stanley Cup? 4
it doesn't. Yeah, but that and you can blame Ovechkin you can only partially blame Ovechkin for that. We've been down that road.
He only became good enough to win a Stanley Cup when he had a supporting cast.
I'm not saying you don't need a supporting cast around Laine, but I'm just saying that you do need the supporting cast in Washington doesn't win a Stanley Cup without Ovechkin there. So
what I was saying is he needs the supporting cast, but he also needed to be coached by a Barry Trotz who made Ovechkin say, okay, I've got to play at both ends of the ice. Patrik Laine wouldn't recognize his own zone if it hit him over the head.
Well, neither would Ovechkin at this point in his career.
Right. I mean, honestly, and he didn't win anything. That's what I'm
saying. I'm just saying, this things can change. He's a young kid. We're talking about what, a 24-year-old kid? 23, right?
22-year-old kid.
22-year-old kid who's already scored 45 goals in 1 year, 38 in another, or projected 38 in another. 22 years old.
I'm not saying that Patrik Laine sucks. I'm saying he's an extremely good talent, but where he fits is as a complementary play, a high level.
I think he's too young to put that on him. I mean, when they got Kessel, how old was Kessel in Toronto when they got him?
23.
Okay, so he's 23, right? So
the same age as Laine.
Okay, the same age as Laine. I got you, but not nearly Laine's skill level. I mean,
he scored 30 goals twice before the Leafs got him.
Yeah, but he didn't score 45 as a rookie.
And Laine scored 30.
Technically, Laine.
That was
technically Laine's ceiling is higher, but he's not proven it really.
Right.
A one-off is not.
And I'm with you on that. No, I'm totally with Green. I'm with you on that. He hasn't proven it, but that's not always what the NHL is about. You know, like you have to realize these guys who are out there, you can't get star players. And that's why Burke made the trade for Kessel. I mean, and it's like you can't get star players who are going to score 40 goals for you. Even if you think he's 40 goals scorer, you can't trade for them. If one of them's available, you better believe that teams are looking at it.
And I don't know if Brian Burke wrote about it in his book, but that's why the Kessel trade was the biggest mistake of Brian Burke's professional career, because he assumed that a guy like Kessel could be harnessed into a star player. And I mean, Laine he'll score 500 goals in his career.
Right.
But he will not win a Stanley Cup unless he's on a team that has a core group.
Nobody will. Neither will Austin Matthews. I mean, it's like nobody, unless you have a team around you, you're not going to. I mean, that's just the way
that was the reason why they added John Tavares, was because
Right, but you have to start somewhere, you know. And to me, the issue here that you're kind of like ignoring is the fact that this is one hell of a young talent. That young talents in the NHL are not easy to find. And if you have a guy who's like thinks, okay, we got this player or that player, we believe that he'll help get him into line. I mean, I still the Kessel trade, and we'll move on after this. But the Kessel trade, to me, I still don't think Burke was completely the person who made that deal. And I say that because even though Burke will not write it or ever say this or admit to it at all, because Burke hated Kessel prior to trading for him, which baffled my mind. Because I talked to Burke about putting the U.S. team together, and he would sit there and say Kessel, he's never, he would say terrible things about the guy, about his ability. He wouldn't come back. He'd never back check, never knew how to do this, never did that. So I was shocked when he made that trade for Kessel. I thought that was never going to happen in a million years, and he made that trade. I still don't know. The pressure of Toronto, whatever, the media, whatever it was, something made him make that trade. And yes, he regrets it. No questions asked, right?
So I'm going to tell you something surprising. So Patrik Laine in his career so far is 0.45 goals per game. John Tavares in his career is 0.42 goals per game.
Right. That's pretty surprising.
And how many more points does Tavares get?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying that's why there's this problem with Laine.
I get that. But he's 22. I mean, let's give the kid a chance to become. And he's been in a situation in Winnipeg, with a coach that is not the coach in Winnipeg. We all know is an issue with players.
Okay, but I think he created his own situation. I do.
With that coach, I'm not so sure.
And all I can say is, if you look at the core players, the key players on the teams that have won Stanley Cups over the last decade, they're either defensemen, they're either big defensemen, Doughty, Hedman, Duncan Keith, or they're centers, Kopitar, Taves, Crosby, Malkin.
Yeah.
Only one is a winger. Only one. That's Ovechkin.
Ovechkin, exactly.
And Patrik Laine is not Ovechkin.
He's not.
No, he's not. I don't think he's Ovechkin either. But the question is, I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% Ovechkin. If he's 95% Ovechkin, that's better than every other scorer in the league.
I don't think he's 95% Ovechkin.
Yeah, and in a decade, will there be enough buy-in from a 31-year-old Laine to play a two-way game and to be a cornerstone of a cup winner? Possibly. But right now, you're talking about trading for a 22-year-old kid who scored a ton of goals, who is going to be wherever he is getting a payday next year in the $9 million range. And if you're going to trade for somebody and give up probably a couple first round picks for that guy, the last thing you want is a guy who's an incomplete player. And Patrik Laine right now is a scorer, and that is it.
Here's the gap. Even if Laine turns into a half a goal a game guy, Ovechkin is .61 in a 15-year career. It's not even close.
Ovechkin, I mean, but he's 15 years in, and and I'm not saying he's Ovechkin, okay?
But it's not even 95%. You're lucky if he gets to be 65%.
Is he among the top 5 best natural goal scorers in the NHL, Laine?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'd say top 10.
Top 10, definitely.
Give me 9 that are better than him.
Well, I just gave you Tavares, who's right there.
As a natural goal scorer, Tavares? I mean,
if you ask him to score goals like the Leafs did, he scored 40 goals.
He can score goals, no question about it.
Ovechkin, Matthews, Tavares, Pasternak, Kucherov. That's 5.
Yeah, Pasternak is a better goal scorer right now than Laine.
Natural goal scorer, I'm going to say.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, I'll give you those. I'll give you those 5. But I don't think you're going to get much further than that. And
I agree.
Patrik Laine?
No. I'm not going to go Patrik Laine on that. I mean, I think Patrik Laine's a huge, big goal scorer, but I'm not going to say he's not like a 40 goal scorer all the time. I mean, he scores goals. He scores big goals in big times. But I don't know. I know we're waiting. I know we're tying up too much time on this, but I think it is interesting because I'm hearing. Because I just got off the phone with people around the league, and the opinion on Laine is very different than the opinion you guys have, and the reason that's why I'm fighting for this other side.
And everybody should be trading for him, but nobody's traded for him.
They're trying, and we know we live in an incredibly difficult time to make a trade. Like this is an unbelievably hard time to make a trade.
That's why some people in the NHL get fired for making stupid decisions.
But he's not like the last thing I'll say, and I meant this, really mean it. Is this? I mean, he's not a complimentary player. Like you're saying you're going to bring him into Colorado. He's 22 years old. You can't bring a 22-year-old and put him on the third line and be like, okay, you be the third line. That's not what he is.
Well, I don't think Colorado. I use Colorado.
He's got to be in the top. He's got to be on your top line. Colorado's not going to put him.
He does, and he wouldn't be able to play on the top line in Colorado.
Right. So that's not what you want to put a 22-year-old goal scorer like him, right?
I use Colorado as an example of a team that basically would trade for him to make a run for a Stanley Cup, and then trade him as an RFA because they can't afford to trade him afford to sign him because they're going to pay Landeskog, they're going to pay Makar, and they're going to pay McKinnon. A team like Montreal,
they have to give up way too much to trade. They'd have to give up way too much to get him.
They probably have to give up a Bowen Byram and something else to get him.
You'd have to give it more because I mean,
well, then you're not going to trade him.
They're not going to give up Bowen Byram.
Nobody's going to give him that
on a 1-year deal.
I don't think they are either. I don't think they are either, and
nobody would do that. Nobody.
I mean, the fact is, if you're trading for Laine, you're trading for the future Laine. You're trading for Laine beyond.
You're not trading for the future Laine. You don't have time to hand out a contract and hammer it out. There's no way.
You have to trade for the future Laine. You're trading for this guy to be part of your cornerstone.
Yeah, I'll give you Connor Timmins and a couple draft picks. That's what I'll give you.
But it'll never happen. You know that.
What Russ and I are saying is that nobody will be willing to pay the price that Winnipeg would be looking, and Winnipeg would be looking for Laine, and Laine is going to end up being traded for significantly less because they're in a position where they don't want to pay him, and probably most of the teams that are trading for him don't want to pay him. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I want to go back to Montreal, and I want to go back to Green because we haven't had we have Green today, and I feel like we haven't got a chance to talk to you. So Garen, this isn't exciting. I'm a Habs fan, as you know, so this is an exciting offseason to see where this is going. And we've had a lot of bad Habs talk on here lately, I was told. So
really?
The reality is,
from Mike, not from me.
No, I know. I heard more of the chat room. I was told the chat room was bad mouthing the Habs.
The chat room. Okay.
So this I like where they're. I really do want to see what Josh Anderson brings. I think it's going to be a really fun. They haven't had a player like that in a very long time. Like,
yeah, it's going to be interesting. But what's also good for Canadiens this year, I think this North Division is good for them. I mean, last year against Canadian teams, they had 10 wins and 5 losses.
Yeah,
and they've improved since then. So, to me, that's good news. And for once, they actually have a real backup in Jake Allen. So I think that's going to take some of the load off of Carey Price's shoulder. Plus, Romanov is coming on the blue line as well at Edmonton. So that means that Mete, Yulson, and Xavier Ouellet are not in your top 6 anymore. So that's good news too.
Right.
And up front, I mean, good. I don't think I've been excited this much by Canadiens off-season move since, when there was a camp where Gallagher and Galchenyuk were coming in, and I was like, oh, there might be something there.
Right.
Then there hasn't been any great off-seasons. I mean, Bergevin did do the Subban-Weber trade, which I was quite frankly annoyed at first. Clearly I was wrong, but whatever. And then there was the summer we sent Sergachev for the Drouin, which I was like, not sure about that.
Yeah.
But this offseason, overall, I'm just like, wow, I can't wait to see some hockey here.
Well, Corinne, I mean, and I haven't been ripping the Canadiens since the off season because I thought they played well in the playoffs, and I like the additions that they've made. They're as strong up the middle 1, 2, 3 with Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Danault than they've been in years. Yeah. Now the thing is, I think Danault is the key player there. He's entering as sort of a shutdown guy, and he's in the last year of his contract. And with all the money that they've spent this off season, I don't know, they could re-sign him if they let Tatar go after this year, and maybe that would.
Honestly, I don't know. With all the money they've committed to Anderson, to Gallagher, to Petrie,
right.
And clearly Bergevin saw those players more important than Danault. But the fact is, if you let Danault go, you've taken 2 steps forward with the rise of Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, and you're going to take a huge one back if you lose Danault, because Danault is like Bergeron light. Say light is not as good as Bergeron, but for the Habs, that's their Bergeron. And they can't really afford to lose him, but I'm not sure they can afford to pay him. And Bergevin in press conference after signing Gallagher said, well, some players, if they want to stay, they are going to have to make some concessions and, maybe leave some money on the table. And Danault was asked about that 2 weeks later. And he said, I don't think Marc was talking to me. He was talking about my situation.
Yeah, he's looking to get paid.
The last time.
Danault needs to get paid. This is his one chance to get a big contract. The thing I would worry about is the pressure on Romanov, because now luckily they have Shea Weber, because Romanov is not like an offensive dynamo like Shea Weber was when he was a young player.
I don't think there's going to be that much pressure on Romanov, because both Julien and Bergevin have said that they intend to bring him in slowly and actually put him on the third pairing to start with.
Okay.
Just give him the time to acclimate and stuff, but he's not as defensively minded as you would think either, because he didn't play as much minutes as he could have in the KHL. They were just trying to make him see, if you don't sign with us, you're not going to play. Clearly that didn't work. He's coming. But I think it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But they can
do some things. But if they bring him along slowly, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I just had
that's not the Habs way though.
I just had the fear that they were going to put him on the left side with Weber and play him 25 minutes a night, and then all of a sudden, they
won't do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, other organizations.
I know.
But this is the funny thing. For years we've had, I always look at the Habs through the Leaf Hab dynamic.
Yeah,
the Leafs have been, the Habs have been traditionally the flying Frenchmen, the high flying, offensive minded Habs, the 24-time Stanley Cup winners. But now if you look at it, the Leafs are the high flying offensive team, and the Habs are the blue collar team. And that's weird, because the Habs have never been a blue collar team. Even that 93, even the team in 86 and the team in 93, they weren't blue collar teams. They had great goaltending and they played good defense and they had Patrick Waugh. But this is a blue collar team, and it's unusual to see that aspect.
It is, but if you're going to pay your main goaltender $10 million, the thing is, you're not going to have that $10 million to spend on the offense. So you do what you can with your.
That's true. Got. And I also think that's selling the speed of Montreal short a little bit. I mean, this is not they're a workman type team, but they're a really fast team. I mean, I think
they are speedy, but they have trouble putting the puck in the net. And I don't think that by just bringing Anderson and Toffoli, they've quite addressed that need completely. It's a step in the right direction, but they're still not an offensive dynamo.
Right, Eck. It's not speed. I'm not saying that they're slow. I'm saying it's mindset. It's the Claude Julien. Play the two-way game. Play a tough game. He's basically adopted what he brought in Boston in Montreal, and he's now assembled those workman-like players. Edmondson. Weber's always been that type of guy. Petrie is that type of guy. Gallagher is a pain in the ass to play against. Where the Leafs are Marner and Nylander and Matthews and Tavares. They're high-skilled, high-flying, offensive-minded players. So it's going to be a battle of contrasts this year.
I mean, I think for Josh Anderson, to me, with Josh Anderson, like talking to people in Columbus, they love Josh Anderson, but they also said that they felt like he didn't play sometimes when he was, play hurt enough, basically. They wanted him to play. He missed a lot of time because of injuries, and they just felt like sometimes some injuries that were like not the kind of injuries other guys would have missed time for, and it's hard for teams to really come out and say that directly, but that's sort of the impression I got.
But in the interview after signing, Anderson said that he did come back from a shoulder injury too fast once, and that really hurt him. So he kind of learned his lesson, and I think that's a good thing. You need to know when you have to stop. I mean, look at Stamkos now.
For sure.
Do you think he would have liked stopping a bit earlier and taking his time? Probably. So, if the guy is now 100% healthy and he doesn't hit another bad luck, then who knows what's the limit for him.
I felt like that was a really smart thing for Anderson to say in that press. I heard just because I had heard the other side of it from Columbus, but at the same time, the pressure in Columbus versus the pressure in Montreal to come back.
Yeah, that's different.
Very different. So if he's like, they're going to ask him how his leg feels now, and then they're going to ask him 10 minutes later, how's your leg feel now? That's what's going to be. That's a different world, right? And so if Columbus thought he wasn't, he's going to have to come back when he's ready to play. And I'm not cheering to judge him. I don't know whether or not that's right or wrong, and I don't know whether or not that's actually what happened with him. What I'm giving you is like, and I always joke around about this, the one line thing, right? Like the one line thing that people have about players, like the reason Columbus was okay moving him was because of that. That's what they said. And it was, and that's not fair because it's the one line they have on the guy, right? They'll say that about him. That's his thing.
See, now I think it'd be interesting to see how he would act in a locker room that's got Gallagher that can play with a broken jaw and to skate, with a Weber that played on a broken ankle for a year, and that kind of leader. I don't think they have that in Columbus. I think Montreal, the guys would be, leading by example, and you'd be like, okay, I'm playing.
Oh, I think I think you have some really. I think just the pressure in general. You've got tough guys in both rooms, but I think the pressure in Montreal is definitely going to be there to perform and play. And the loss and Max Domi was a popular guy, right? Like he's a popular player to move out.
Well, he was a popular guy. He really was, but we saw in the bubble that he became kind of surplus to requirement because Suzuki and Kotkaniemi were growing so much. And quite frankly, I was a big Max Domi fan, but I saw it and I was like, I'm okay with him moving now, even though I like the guy.
And unlike a lot of players who are intimidated by like the attention of a big hockey media market, Max Domi really gravitated toward it.
I love that.
He grew up as a son of a hockey player, so to him it was no big deal. Like
in Toronto, and his idol was his dad's teammate Matt Sundin. So it's like But that's the only thing I'm concerned about with Domi going to Columbus, because Ohio State college football is bigger than the Columbus Blue Jackets in terms of the scheme of things in Ohio. So I'm a little concerned about that, but he got his new contract, so he should be good.
When Josh Anderson is on his game and when he's playing at his best, he's definitely better than Max Domi at his best.
Yes.
But I don't question that at all. I like Max Domi a lot, but I think Anderson has a lot to him.
But the question is, and I've heard this from Columbus reporters, the question about Josh Anderson is sort of, what Corinne said about Gallagher playing with a broken jaw or Weber playing on a broken ankle, that Josh Anderson is not that type of player, that he's not willing to, unless everything is right with him, he can't play the way he needs to play. Now, that might be bull crap. We'll see.
Well, also remember he's got Torts as a coach, right? And Torts is can be a jerk about stuff like that. So that's the other issue. Torts isn't going to
The other thing too is I like Domi a little better as a player. I know people said, hey, he didn't look engaged, whatever, last year. He was deciding whether he was going to play at all because of his diabetes. So I think that may have weighed on him too.
Yeah, true.
To be honest, I don't think he could be that engaged in the playoff either. I mean, you put the guy on the fourth line and you set him with Jordan Will and Dale Weiss. I mean, come on. The guy's thinking, I had 2 points last year. What are you doing to me?
Yeah, that's a complete waste.
That is a line. That's 2/3 of that was run out of Philly on a rail.
We'll save the key dates thing. Until
but I do want to talk really quickly about and then if you have anything else, Mike, you have something else?
I have one thing. I mean, we can
go ahead, Ross. You go for 2
seconds. Derek Enlund retired now. He's finally getting. It's not front office. He's going to run the foundation and be like the special assistant to Foley. So
nice. I like that.
You're going to see probably a lot of PTOs and 1-year contracts signed over the next week or so. Especially goaltenders. It sounds like guys like Jimmy Howard and Ryan Miller, if they want to continue their career, there are opportunities out there. The PTO that piqued my interest, and I'm going to write about this a little bit, Freddie the Goat Gauthier, according to Elliot Friedman, is getting a PTO from Arizona. Friedman said the Coyotes are looking for a center. Well, they're still looking for a center if they're signing Freddie Goat.
But the thing is with PTO this year, there's not even any exhibition games, so that's kind of hard to evaluate.
I don't know how the PTO is going to work either. I thought the same thing, Korean. I thought the same thing. How is PTO even going to work? It's going to just be practices.
Yeah,
they can stick around. They can stay around with the team.
He's going to make the
team until they sign.
They need bodies in Arizona. As long as he doesn't look bad in practice, Tippett's going to say sign him.
Yeah, and if they have Chipotle locations in Glendale, then they'll be okay because we know Freddie loves Chipotle.
I mean, Arizona's going to have fans.
I'm getting a lot of people texting me about Jimmy Howard, and they're hearing Jimmy Howard and the Capitals.
I was going to say, Ecto, before Jimmy Howard, Arizona's going to have fans. They came out and said that today.
I heard that too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Howard and the Jimmy Howard and the Caps is, and I don't know what to make of that. Like Jimmy Howard, I love Jimmy Howard as a guy, and I've covered him in a lot of different USA situations and stuff like that. And I think I don't necessarily blame him for all of Detroit's longings. Funky will in the chat room, our Detroit expert, will agree with that probably. But at the same time, he was terrible last year, like really, really terrible. Kevin Allen came on here and talked about how Jimmy Howard just was really, really bad. The Caps need to get somebody solid in there as their backup.
Then they shouldn't go with Jimmy Howard.
I mean, I think Ryan Miller is a better option. The question is, is Miller willing to take a shot at the cup, to come east again?
Well, I think Miller's not going to do it because he was hired as an assistant, and it will look awfully bad if all of a sudden he doesn't ever become that assistant and all of a sudden is back to being a player again.
Where was he hired as an assistant?
I forget. Let me look.
Because there was a Ryan Miller hired as an assistant GM in St. Louis, but that's not the Ryan Miller.
Oh, no, that's right.
You'd be better off signing me than Jimmy Howard.
No, that's right. It was the other Ryan Miller we were talking about.
I'm ready to go. I've been working out. My ice rink in the backyard actually is frozen. We actually are skating on it. So, yeah, I'm ready.
Is he going to come to the East Coast is the question.
That is the question on Ryan Miller.
He won't. And Craig Anderson might not be an option, like I've said on previous shows. Craig Anderson's wife is recovering, is in remission, I believe, from cancer. And with COVID, people who have cancers or pre-existing conditions, they're more apt, they're more vulnerable to COVID. And I can't see him exposing himself and then exposing his wife. So maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't heard anything about Craig Anderson.
Yeah, I've never heard that either. I think we would have. if he was going to play, because I think there are some people who think he's a better goalie than some of the goalies we've already seen signed.
Yes.
So I think that at the end of the day, I agree with you. Finally, the last thing is the schedule that came out that we're going to not come out, but it's been working its way around. I saw parts of it. One of the guys showed me one of the things where actually a team was going to play 4 times in a row in a city.
Yeah, that's one team's doing that. Like 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah, 2 or 3 teams actually, more than one. This is I don't have a problem with it at all. And here's what I'm going to throw out there. That might not stop after COVID. The theory that I have is that
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
there are players who have been like Jonathan Taves, who talked about it, like who thinks the NHL needs to be more green, and why are we traveling around as much as we are when we can go to a city and play 2 games there? I'm not saying 4 games there, but I'm saying in the future, I bet we could see. I bet you one of the things that continues from this will be the 2 games at a time in a
but the issue here is traditionally when you're talking about the now 32 team NHL, when you're playing teams in your own division, you're playing them 4 times in the year.
Right.
You're not playing them 9 or 10. So if you play a double header Saturday, Sunday, Toronto and Montreal, that's the only 2 times that Toronto was visiting Centre Bell.
No, but with Toronto, Montreal, it makes no sense. That's a train trip. That's a short. I'm talking about right. They don't fly to
Colorado, Montreal. Arizona, going to Glendale twice.
I'm talking about Dallas. Going to LA. In the
I'll
future.
tell you what the problem would be. Season ticket holders would complain. That's a lot of strain to put on them to show up 4 days in a row.
Well, they're not going to play 4 days in a row.
Okay, 3 out of 4 even. That's hard for them to do that in a week.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think that in some markets, it depends though what the rivalry is. I mean, if say you have, I'm trying to think of like a really it used to be like the Predators, for example, their ticket sales would go through the roof every time Detroit came to town, right? Detroit was their team, and that was like you couldn't get enough of the Red Wings. You can't get enough of Montreal in Florida, in Sunrise. Montreal comes to town. That's like their biggest because there's so many Canadian Montreal people living in Western Eastern Florida. But those type of situations, there's no reason not to do that for them. But in other situations, I agree. But I do think the NHL is going to. One thing's for sure, they're gonna like the money they're saving on this thing. The front offices are gonna be like, yeah, I like the amount of money we're saving on travel. That's not gonna go. They're gonna try to figure out a way to keep that going.
Maybe.
And they're gonna use economics, and they'll probably even use good for the environment as an excuse to do it, because it makes sense to me. It is good for the environment. I mean, it's not as much fun for us, maybe, but there also might be some fun this year. I mean, if a team goes in and plays, like Toronto goes to Vancouver and plays 3 games in a row or whatever, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be
It's not going to be fun for the goalies.
Well, let's say this, Zach. I hope that the Alberta provincial government stockpiles their police when Edmonton and Calgary play 3 games in a row against each other, because there will be riots.
Oh yeah, can you imagine? I mean, it's going to be fun. I mean,
if it's coming at the wrong time and Toronto's got to play 3 out of 4, Mike will finally get to see Aaron Dell as a Leaf.
Yes, see, to me, you won't.
I don't think he's bad as a 3rd-string goalie, Ross.
I think I would almost bet money we're going to see Aaron Dell as a Leaf this year. So I think we're going to see that for sure. But so as far as the divisions go, the Canadian division. But before we leave, let's get Karen's your opinion on how the Canadian division is going to play out here. Who do you think wins it?
Who do you think wins it? Mm-hmm.
Sorry to throw you on the spot there, but
that's quite a tricky question. The Homer in me would like to say Montreal, but that's not happening.
Yeah.
I think I'm torn between Toronto and Calgary. Actually, I quite like Toronto and Calgary.
Yeah, I actually am with you on this.
I think Calgary finally has the goaltending, and Toronto, well, they've been getting better over the years, and it would be time to step up eventually. So why not now? I don't think the goaltender is the problem in Toronto. They still haven't, and I think if they shore up the defense a bit, I think they might actually do it this year. I wouldn't like it, but I think it might.
I like their offseason moves that they've made. This is the most I've liked Toronto's offseason moves in a long time.
I'll save my prediction until just before the regular season, but I will guarantee this: the winner of the North Division will not be Edmonton.
I know you already have Edmonton not making the playoffs. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But I
think Toronto will win the division because they always play well in the regular season.
Yeah, I think Toronto not playing Boston, they'll be very happy about that. No Boston, no Boston. You can go an entire year without seeing the Bruins, which is very popular.
Yeah, I'm sure Toronto fans would be sad about that.
And then lose to them in the Stanley Cup final. That's what.
Right.
Yeah, assuming they get there. I don't know that the Bruins are making the playoffs, guys. I don't think they are.
I don't know. When are Pasternak and who's the other one who's injured? Marchand. Are they going to be good for the start of the season? No, or not?
They're missing time. They are going to miss some time.
The speculation is they would be back by the first week of February, possibly.
The Bruins and the Sabres aren't playing in that lousy Atlantic division anymore. They're playing in the friggin' Metro division now. It's going to be a different world for them.
It's going to be a different world.
They're going to have to see what it's like to play. The Metro division is tough. I mean, you got a lot of tough teams to get through in that division.
Yeah, the Rangers are going to still have trouble with a team like the Bruins. Don't.
Yeah, that lousy Atlantic Division where the Stanley Cup finalists came from last year, and the Stanley Cup winner came from this year. The lousy Atlantic Division. Come on.
That's true. No, but you've also you've had Ottawa and Buffalo for a very long time up there, and neither of those teams has been anything. And there's been nobody like that in the Metro Division. No one. All right. Corinne, thank you so much for coming on, and make sure you check out your blogs have been, and I've tweeted about it a couple times, but absolutely phenomenal work by you.
Well, thank you very much.
I love the stuff you're doing. It's really great.
I really enjoy it too, Corinne, but I don't read French.
That's why I'm doing it in both English and French, because
people are raving about it all over the place, and it's wonderful. It's so great, and it's awesome. It's awesome stuff. So make sure you check it out. And obviously, Canadian fans are flocking to it in droves, which is wonderful. Some of the biggest numbers we've seen from Montreal fans since like Eric Engels, and just awesome stuff. So, folks, that's it for today. But we'll be back again tomorrow, and that'll be the last day of the week because it's Christmas Eve and Christmas. I don't think we'll be doing shows. But remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you then.